It's the bitches of Eastwick.
Here we go! This night, you gotta find that nightmares do come true. We will find you. Trick or treat. This night, you gotta find that.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to 31 Days of Horror, Year 3. This is day 23. I am Morgan Film Fan. Let's jump into some scares. This is The Craft. We are getting into some cheesy late 90s territory. Post-Scream kind of stuff. That'll be today and tomorrow. And we are starting with The Craft, with its alternate super 90s looking artwork there. No floating heads, which was famous in the post-Scream days. Which, it was funny, because I never knew exactly what people were talking about when they mentioned floating heads until, like, maybe a year ago. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's what it is. That makes total sense. Where, like, every movie cover was just completely black with people's faces on it. And you couldn't see the rest of their bodies and just their heads. But anyway, I digress. Let's go into the synopsis of The Craft. So, we've got Neve Campbell, we got Firuza Balk, Robin Tunney, and Rachel True. And these are four high school girls who basically practice witchcraft and Wiccan stuff. And the one girl, whose name is Nancy, she's the most like wild child rebel goth girl in the group, and her two friends, I got their names. Bonnie, who's played by Neve Campbell, is basically a burn victim, and Rochelle is the other girl in the trio that they have going, and they're basically looking for a fourth girl to join because they have this whole north, south, east, west sect thing that they want to get together. And when they meet this new girl in school, Sarah is her name, who just moved into Los Angeles from San Francisco, they notice that she has quite the interesting powers and quite the interesting vibe and how can you say, presence coming out of her. So they're kind of skeptical about her, but they immediately want to be friends with this girl to fill out their what would you call it? Quadruple? Quartet. There you go. I found it. Their quartet of this Wiccan coven group. Yeah, so basically it just, they start to dwell in a bunch of witchcraft, and they start to get revenge on people that have wronged them, and bullies, and you know, just people they want to cast spells on, really. And obviously things go wrong when they meet this woman. Well, they meet this woman, and this woman warns them that things can go wrong if they dwell too much in this witchcraft stuff, because she's a professional Wiccan herself, and they, of course, are rebellious teen girls and don't listen, and everything does come back to haunt them tenfold, as this Wiccan woman warned them that it would. Things just continually escalate, and it's absolutely soaked with 90s-ism, and it is a lot of fun. So basically, my thoughts are packed with 90s-ism. It's trope after trope every single 2 minutes. The music is fully 90s. This film is drenched with 90s music. You got grunge rock and Marilyn Manson rip-offs playing all the time. Like I said, Nancy is... They might as well have not given her a name. The girl played by Firuza Balk, Nancy, No, they should have just called her the 90s goth chick. Literally, that's how she should have been labeled in the credits, just the 90s goth chick. Everybody would immediately know who she was. Trust me. Yeah, there's a few things that happen. I'll mention one in particular. It's not like, I'm not gonna fully spoil it, but it involves a girl, like a really bitchy girl's hair falling out. One of the girls casts a spell on this girl that's bullying her all the time, and her hair starts to fall out like slowly. Like she has like beautiful blonde hair and starts to go like fall out all at once basically. And I felt no sympathy for that girl whatsoever because of her attitude and what the way she treated this poor girl in this sect. She deserved to be bald. Okay, she deserved to not be beautiful anymore because she's too bitchy to be beautiful. What else do we got here? Oh, there's well, I don't know how much I can talk about without getting into spoiler territory, but this thing has a slew of characters that are just so not over the top, but so interesting to watch, and things that happen to people. Another thing I find about this film is that it's continuously 90s cheese and 90s tropey throughout, but right in the third act, it does get really dark. I enjoyed the pacing of this film, about 95 to 98% of it, because it does take a really dark turn, not all at once, but slowly, and then things start to happen that stop being like goofy in a sense, and get like really dark in themes, and then the ending, like the last 5-10 minutes of the film, goes 90s cheese again. So it kind of is progressively 90s cheese, then escalates to super dark, and then finishes off with 90s cheese. And that's the thing about the 90s horror movies, man. They had their stigmas and they have their tropes. Like you know a 90s movie when you see it, but because they just weren't making many good horror movies in the 90s, it's not like the 80s where it's the same thing, but 80s horror movies were the shit. Where 90s horror movies weren't. Now they still have, both decades still have the stigma, like 80s stereotypes and 90s stereotypes. It's just unfortunately the 90s are kind of not well aged and not well received today, where the 80s still are. But every once in a while you land on one, like The Craft, because I really liked it. And I found it a lot of fun that really holds for the most part, but is still, has its moments where it's like, yeah, it's just, it doesn't age. But I'd say overall it was very good, and I would come in at 78 out of 100. I was going to come in at an 88 out of 100, but there, like I said, were some things that happened that were just too cheesy and corny and drenched with 90s-ism that I just had to bring it down a little bit more to 78. So 78 out of 100. Why out of 100? Because I hate decimals, and because overall it was extremely entertaining. Neve Campbell, I mean, she's amazing to look at alone, let alone the other girls. But yeah, that's The Craft, and Scream Factory release. They make awesome horror releases that usually most of them are purely nostalgic, and lots of fun. So I'm gonna leave it at that. And this was 1996, and tomorrow's is going to be 1998. So really at the really post Scream. And yeah, that's my thoughts on this one, and I had a lot of fun with it. I'm Morgan Film Fan. Subscribe to Morgan Film Fan on YouTube and follow my Instagram if you'd like. And I will be back for more later. Have a good night. Cheers.